Charlie Kirk has been shot and killed, and America is reeling. On the night of September 10th, 2025, at Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah, the 31-year-old conservative activist, commentator, and co-founder of Turning Point USA was delivering what was supposed to be the powerful opening to his highly anticipated American Comeback Tour. The event was packed with more than 3,000 supporters, students, and community members. The atmosphere was electric, filled with the energy of a rally designed to push Kirk's message forward at a time when he was more influential than ever. But that energy turned into horror in an instant. As Kirk engaged in a live Q&A session, he was asked a question about mass shootings and transgender issues, one of the many controversial subjects he never shied away from. While answering, a sudden crack split the air. A gunshot. The bullet, fired from approximately 200 yards away from the rooftop of a nearby building, tore into his neck. The crowd erupted into screams. Chaos spread. People dove to the floor while others fled in panic. Within seconds, the American Comeback Tour was no longer a rally. It was a crime scene. Kirk collapsed. Security rushed in. Emergency responders moved quickly, and he was taken to a nearby hospital. For a brief moment, many clung to hope that he would pull through. But hours later, confirmation came. Charlie Kirk had died from his injuries. The young activist, the man who had built an empire out of Turning Point USA, was gone. The nation woke up the next morning in shock. Kirk wasn't just another political figure. He was one of the most visible conservative voices of his generation, a figure whose name carried weight on college campuses, in political debates, and across social media. At just 31, he had built a massive platform and was often considered the face of Gen Z conservatism. His sudden, violent death immediately sparked an avalanche of grief, outrage, and debate. Hollywood's reactions were swift. Pratt, one of the most outspoken Christian actors in the industry, posted a heartfelt message that read, "Praying for Charlie Kirk right now, for his wife and young children, for our country. We need God's grace. God help us." His words struck a chord, not just as a celebrity comment, but as a reflection of how faith and family were central to the tragedy. Reality star Savannah Chrisley was hit particularly hard. Through tears and a viral TikTok, she revealed that she was scheduled to join Kirk on his speaking tour in just a few weeks. She called him a lifelong friend, someone who gave her a voice when the world dismissed her, someone who poured encouragement into her when she needed it most. "I am devastated beyond words," she said, pausing between sobs. Savannah also spoke about Kirk's wife, Erika, describing her as one of the kindest and most loving people she had ever known. Her message painted a picture not of a political figure, but of a husband and father whose absence will leave a gaping hole. Other celebrities also voiced their grief. Candace Cameron Bure wrote, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Jake Paul, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Meghan McCain, and even Jimmy Kimmel offered their condolences, each acknowledging the tragedy of a life cut short by violence. Even those who had sparred with Kirk ideologically made it clear, no one deserves to die this way. But it wasn't just Hollywood. Political leaders from across the spectrum weighed in. Donald Trump mourned the loss of a man he called legendary, emphasizing that no one understood America's youth quite like Charlie Kirk did. Donald Trump Jr. described him as a little brother. In a rare moment of unity, former President Barack Obama also issued a statement condemning the shooting as a cowardly, horrific act and urging the nation to reject political violence. In a climate as divided as today's America, seeing leaders from both parties react with shared outrage underscored the magnitude of what had happened. Behind the headlines, though, is the human tragedy. Charlie Kirk leaves behind his wife, Erika Kirk, and their 2 young children, a daughter around 3 years old and a son just over 1. For them, this isn't a story of politics or ideology. It's the devastating reality of a husband and father taken too soon. Savannah Chrisley's emotional words echoed what so many are feeling, heartbreak for a family now shattered. Investigators are scrambling for answers. Immediately after the shooting, 2 individuals were detained, but they were later released, found to have no connection. That has only deepened the mystery. Who fired the shot? What was the motive? Was this political, personal, or something else entirely? As of now, the shooter remains unidentified, and no motive has been confirmed. Authorities describe the investigation as ongoing, but the lack of immediate answers has left the public unsettled.
The shooting has already ignited fierce debates across social media and political circles. Supporters of Kirk are calling this an assassination, framing him as a martyr for the conservative movement. Critics, while condemning the violence, point to the heated rhetoric Kirk often used, suggesting that America's escalating political climate has reached a breaking point. Conversations about gun control, free speech, extremism, and public safety are dominating the national dialogue. And then there's the irony. Charlie Kirk was one of the most vocal defenders of gun rights. He built much of his platform on the argument that the Second Amendment was sacred and non-negotiable. He frequently criticized Democrats for what he called gun-grabbing policies. Now, he himself has become the victim of gun violence. It's a haunting paradox that many are highlighting, adding yet another layer to the already intense debate. But no matter where people stand politically, the scale of this tragedy is undeniable. Charlie Kirk was a polarizing figure, adored by some, despised by others, but he was also a husband, a father, and a man whose life ended violently in front of thousands of witnesses. In the days since his death, vigils have been held, tributes shared, and messages of grief continue to pour in. On college campuses where Kirk once stirred controversy, students are now reflecting on what his presence meant. On social media, fans are sharing his speeches, framing them as part of a lasting legacy. Political commentators are dissecting what this means for the future of activism, safety, and political discourse in America. For his supporters, Kirk's death is not just a personal loss, it's a rallying cry. Already, some are vowing to carry forward his mission, to ensure his voice echoes even after his passing. For his critics, it's a sobering reminder of how dangerous America's political climate has become, where words and ideologies can spiral into bloodshed. Charlie Kirk's death marks a turning point. It forces us to ask, how safe are public figures in this era of polarization? How long can America endure this cycle of violence? And what legacy will Kirk leave behind? Will he be remembered primarily for his divisive rhetoric, or as a young father and husband who left too soon? What we know is this: his absence will be felt deeply, not only by his family but by the political movement he helped build. The American Comeback Tour was meant to signal the next chapter of his career. Instead, his life has been cut short, leaving his supporters to carry the torch. The grief is raw, the outrage is loud, and the debates are far from over. But at its heart, this is the story of a man, his family, and a country shaken by violence once again. Make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more celebrity updates just like this.